Well, let's get you a quick update on those developments. I'm joined live from the African Union headquarters by Robert Nigila. Robert, what's the significance, though, of Morocco being readmitted to the African Union, and how have people been reacting to that news?
Well, first, it's important to understand how all this came about. Now, Morocco gave up its membership of the Organization of the African Union, as the AU was then known, in 1984, after the organization admitted Western Sahara. And we all know the problems that have been there between Morocco and Western Sahara. Now, of course, in the last few years that have passed, Morocco, of course, began to realize that it was missing out on quite a lot as the African Union became closer and integrated its policies on development and other issues and used the organization as a voice for the African people on the global stage. It was clear to Morocco that it was missing out on a lot. However, let's flip the coin the other side as well. After Libya, Morocco is very, very rich in not just resources, but also has a lot of cash to spare. And we've seen that as it's been investing in several African countries over the last several months. So it was time for Morocco to come in. However, one of the conditions set was that it would not come in with any preconditions. So that was significant in that respect. In terms of how it's been received, well, as you can imagine, of course, on the Moroccan side, they're very, very happy with this progress, happy that they've been readmitted into the African Union. We know that some countries abstained on that vote. However, that relationship, people say, will become much, much stronger. Now, to give us a little insight into this event that occurred yesterday is Mr. Solomon Dacier. You're an expert on African affairs, and I just want to touch on Morocco's admission into the African Union. Your take on that first, was it surprising or did you expect it?
It was not a surprising outcome. There has been a lot of lobbying that Morocco has been mobilizing quite for a number of years now. Over the course of the past year, Morocco concluded a number of economic cooperation agreements with quite a number of countries. We knew that it has had quite strong support within Francophone Africa, but its reach actually extended beyond Francophone Africa and covered countries in Southern Africa and Eastern Africa as well. And Morocco essentially reaped the benefit of its aggressive outreach to gain membership into the African Union.
So the prodigal son is back into the fold, as we have seen. Were there any conditions set on Morocco, any preconditions for it to be admitted, especially pertaining to Western Sahara?
I think we have to admit that this is one of the most historic summits as far as the African Union history is concerned. In the league of the 1963 summit that founded the OAU and that of the 2002 that founded the African Union. And its significance relates to the weight that many countries attached to this debate of whether or not to admit Western Sahara, Morocco, into the African Union. It brought into tension major fundamental principles of the African Union, including that of the maintenance of colonially inherited borders or territories. In its request for admission, Morocco reflected that it is seeking membership into the African Union within the framework of the Constitutive Act of the African Union, and it made reference to Article 42 of its constitution, which says that Morocco's authentic frontiers are indivisible. And there was a debate as to whether or not that actually accepts the colonially inherited borders that are recognized under international law.
Now, Solomon, you've been following the African Union events here very, very closely over the last decade or so. With Libya out of the picture, the late Colonel Mahamat Gaddafi, there's a lot of people now saying that Morocco is stepping into those shoes, so to speak, because it's flush with money and it will now try and exert its influence over the future of the African Union and what direction the continent will decide to take. Do you see it that way, or do you have a different view over that?
Obviously, one of the questions that people ask is whether or not Morocco is back to the African Union for the love of the African Union. I think that is a question that we would only have answer for in the years to come. We wouldn't know whether this would be positive or negative. The other is the issue over Western Sahara. Now the question really is whether or not this would give the African Union, having Morocco on board, would give the African Union additional advantage in terms of pursue its renewed effort for having conclusively resolved the Western Sahara question once and for all. As you know, over the past couple of years, the African Union has increased its effort for bringing an end to what is considered to be the last colonial territory on the African continent, that of the Western Sahara. Now, many heads of state argued that it would give us an opportunity exactly to achieve that. But whether or not we would see that happening again is something that history will be able to tell.
Solomon Dacia, expert on African affairs, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And really, that's one to watch, Western Sahara, Morocco, and where they go from here. Now, today, we've got a couple of events lined up. In about an hour, we expect the outgoing chairperson of the AUC, Dlamini-Zuma, to host the heads of state to a luncheon. And then, of course, following that, we expect the closing ceremony to begin and a press briefing basically touching on the events of this weekend and into this week as well. Beatrice?
Well, Robert Ngila for us there in Addis Ababa on the updates coming out of the African Union. Thank you.